cheap, so why don't we just take a stand? So many days I've been away, just hoping you would find me. We're not okay, just feel the rage that's burning up inside me. You can say that I'm nothing, but you don't know me, no you don't know me. I'll be rising above it. Can't look down on me, can't look down on me. You can say that I'm nothing, but you don't know me, no you don't know me. Never let you get inside of my head. Yeah, I'm looking for going until I'm dead. So many days I've been away, just hoping you would find me. We're not okay, just feel the rage that's burning up inside me. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? The rage, the rage.
That was perfect timing. That was right as soon as the song ended. Huh. Maybe I should keep that in mind. I have those songs playing right as soon as it starts. Just those two. At least for now. Till I can find something that's exact. I was pretty exact. I just didn't like that the first song had lyrics to it. I don't want to waste any time today. I want to jump right into it because I've been excited about this trailer all day. But first, I got an announcement to make. It's the same announcement as every time. I have a PayPal down there in the description. And also, you could hit that super thanks or even a super chat because right now this is live. If you're watching live. I've got a new show coming soon. I've already started working on it. I'm already almost done with the first concept episode, which I'll probably release on members only. But anyway, yeah, I've got that coming. It's a movie reviews, basically, with my little anarchist twist on it. It's not going to be me. It is me, but I'm playing a character similar to Nostalgia Critic. It's still pretty much going to be me. I'm just going to be playing up the personality of myself. Anyway, let's just go ahead and get into today's show. Fables, Folly, live, episode 6. How you doing? So 28 years later, trailer just dropped. Holy crap. I can't wait for this movie. I love 28 Days Later. I love 28 Weeks Later. I watched 28 Weeks Later right when it came out. I had no idea what it was. Didn't even know that there was a first one for the longest time because it didn't really seem like a sequel. But both of them amazing. I like the first one a little bit more because the style of it, there's just no beating it. Anyway, I'm tired of wasting time. Teletubbies, okay.
Sit here. Sit.
Auntie, what's going on?
Jimmy, sit still, keep quiet, and do not move from this spot.
That's crazy. Already just popping off. Teletubbies is brainwashing, by the way. Perfect for the start of this trailer.
7, 6,
Days
11,
became weeks.
5, 9 and 20 miles today.
Hey,
4, 11,
that looks like 28 weeks
17,
later.
The day before. Boot, boot,
Weeks
boot,
became years.
boot, moving up and down again.
Yeah, it has. It's been a long time, man.
Don't look at what's in front of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. Men.
Danny Boyle. Isn't that the guy who did all the other ones?
There's no discharge in the
I'm gonna turn
war.
this down a little bit. Alright.
Your eyes drop,
Hey, that looks like The
they will
Purge.
get the top of you. Boot, 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 moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war.
Next summer. That's soonish. That's... Whoa. Excuse me, what was that? That's Cillian Murphy? There's no way. Is that like actually his character? Did they just straight up just drop him in the trailer? He looks like a zombie.
Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11,
what the chanting in the background? What was that about? 28 years later, it's like turned into Doomsday. You ever seen the movie Doomsday? If you haven't, look it up, because that's kind of what it reminded me of, but mixed with Walking Dead. And it's got that vibe. It's got it, but man, I don't even know what to say. It looks amazing. That is how you do a trailer. That is how you do a trailer. More trailers need to, well, I say more trailers need to look like that, but I don't think that we need more trailers to look like that if they're bad movies. I don't think this one's going to be bad, which makes me excited. Because I'm tired of bad movies, especially bad sequels, especially to my favorite franchises, like 28 Days and Weeks Later and all of the comic books and things that spawned from that. If they do a video game, I hope it's good and not some microtransaction free-to-play bullcrap. Excellent. I'll give that a like. 5 million views 14 hours ago. People really want to... Number one on trending, of course. After years of being deceived by fake trailers, this one is for real. Right? It's so good that it seemed fake. Gives you just enough to intrigue, but not enough to spoil. This is the lost art of making a trailer. Yeah, it gave nothing away other than the environment, and possibly Cillian Murphy might be dead. I don't know about that. He could just be a starving man, very extremely starving man, and they can save him. Whoever had the pleasure of making this trailer, you did a hell of a job. Yeah, it was frantic. I had no idea what was going on through the whole thing. It gave me a good vibe of who the characters were going to be and what they were going to be like, but I don't know who the characters are, and I really want to know. I really want to watch this movie. Guess the dogs were barking at each other. Anyway, this chick, don't know who this chick is. She's got quite a bit of subscribers. She's pretty. I like her hair. Why I only play old games. She's got me a little bit distracted.
You ever just wanna...
Yeah. All the time.
Or even...
All of those.
Because
well, maybe not World of Warcraft.
All the time. The truth is, I haven't been excited about a new release for a very long time. The last new game that I was really anticipating would have been like Outlast Trials or the anniversary edition of Beyond Good and Evil, a game which came out in 2003, by the way, and even that I was anticipating with caution because, you know, it is Ubisoft and nobody wants to see their favorite game ruined. When I have spare
nobody wants to see it remade for modern audiences.
Time, when I want to chill and just immerse myself in a different world, I go for games that are like 20 years old or somewhere around that. If you watched my channel at all, you will know that I'm somebody that appreciates...
I am literally playing a game that is 30 years old right now on stream. Well, kinda. It's the remake of a 30-year-old game. And I'm gonna be playing those games, which are all old, for a while. And even the other game that I'm wanting to play is kind of old.
The finer details in games. I really love worlds that feel alive, eccentric characters, cozy environments. I like beautiful things like art, and of course, my favorite, I like clothing and accessories. More and more I'm finding that modern games have nothing to offer me, and I do want to preface this by saying that this is strictly my opinion, but you would think that with the technology that we have now, all of those things that I mentioned earlier could be improved upon tenfold, but alas we are given bland worlds, sometimes a lecture in politics, and the erasure of femininity in gaming. The last point in particular is something that I, as a female gamer, really hate to see.
I really hate to see ugly people in my games when they could be pretty. And it's not even like, they don't have to be 10 out of 10, man. But they're making them 6s because it's realistic. But games, I'm tired of everything being realistic. I want unrealistic. I don't want to be me. I want to be somebody else. It's escapism, damn it. I want to be something cooler than real life.
Because in the industry's attempt to become more inclusive and conscious of the issues that women deal with when it comes to depictions in media, they've actually gone and made femininity inherently evil and sexualized. Through different companies' actions, we're being shown that beauty and beautiful women have no space in modern gaming, that they're just too much. Aside from that, their portrayal of what it means to be a strong woman suggests that we need to be able to physically overpower our male opponents. The greatest example of this for me is Abby from The Last of Us 2, who is not only the least relatable female protagonist I've seen in like any game ever.
She reminds me of, what's his name? From the main character of Folly. I don't remember his name, but she looks like him, but like a 4K enhanced version of him.
Who is not only the least relatable female protagonist I've seen in like any game ever, she's also said to be extremely unlikable from the start for what she does to our beloved Joel. The game tries its best to make you sympathize with her by telling you her part of the story, but the combination of her unrealistic—
Her arms look like my arms. Like, exactly like my arms. She has the same body as me. It's weird.
build and her actions throughout the game just make me resent her. And yes, it is an unrealistic build. I'm sorry, but we are in a post-apocalyptic world. Even if she did have access to like top-of-the-line gym equipment in her commune, I doubt that they could ration enough greens and protein for her meal prep to allow her enough time to even get close to that physique. You would need some post-apocalyptic steroids, which sets an unhealthy standard, by the way, to make it make sense. But no, the industry thinks I'm an idiot because I'm supposed to say, oh, great, a strong woman, because there's nothing other than huge muscular arms that could mean a strong woman. Going back to an old game, I'll compare Abby to Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Now, this game originally came out in 2003, and the protagonist is actually more of a tomboy, but she's still very charming, and the game encourages you to find ways other than physical fighting to progress. It has great stealth, she is brave, she wants to expose her government for their evil doings, just a very likable character and someone that you could root for. She looks pretty and somehow is in no way sexualized. Weird that they could do that, right? Speaking of unlikable characters, let's talk about Concord. Aside from the fact that none of the characters are appealing in any way, and I do mean male or female, they're also just poorly designed. There is no personality to them, no depth, nothing that would inspire me to, I don't know, want to cosplay them, for example. And I mean, half of them look like they're a ripoff of something that already exists. Sindel from Mortal Kombat has certainly seen better days. You compare these to heroes from other hero shooters, even the free-to-play ones, and you can see that there's a massive difference. Like,
they're definitely trying to ride that Overwatch vibe, and Overwatch, isn't it free-to-play? Fortnite, it reminds me of Fortnite, Overwatch, all these games. Just all thrown into one. That's what Concord was, and everybody could see it. They were just taking all of everything that they were looking at the games and like, this is what looks like it's popular, and we're gonna put it in our game, make our game look like the other popular games.
These are beloved characters. People have cosplayed these, you know, they're memorable. People that haven't even played the games know who they are and would likely know them by name as well. Whereas Concord's heroes are at best like 800 V-Bucks Fortnite skins. And you know what? Even Fortnite skins have more personality than what they've created here. We know by now that when something like this gets any sort of criticism, the industry will tell you that it doesn't matter because it's the opinion of straight men, so it doesn't count. Which, by the way, great job ignoring and vilifying like a huge chunk of your audience. However, when I as a woman express my opinions and say that I don't like it, I explain the issues that I have with it, I will be told that I'm just being a pick-me girl, pandering to the men that don't don't like it. Give me a break. A dragon break. You're telling me straight up that a woman is incapable of coming to that conclusion on her own without men telling her that that is the way. You know what they call that? So yeah, instead of arguing with you and getting called a talentless freak, actual quote from Concord developer, I'm just gonna go and create a new Minecraft world. So as I have said, beautiful women in gaming seem to be an absolute no.
What in the hell? Okay. I've seen the Fables, Fable. I've seen the Fable picture. It didn't look that bad last time I looked at it. But man, does it look bad. It's like they took a normal looking person and made it look uglier than the person that it was portraying. Same with, what's her name here? I played this game recently from Horizon. She had a really dumb name.
No-go nowadays, and we see this in the new Star Wars Outlaws. It feels like the developers literally went out of their way to diminish this character's looks, especially when you compare her to her face model. Like, they really did her dirty. And in their attempt to make this character less attractive, I actually think that they made her look not human. People don't look like that. Of course, the game is currently receiving backlash for a lot of other things, mainly how it feels so unfinished and broken, but aside from how she looks, it's also the
They're always unfinished and broken, like all of them. And people still buy them and play them. I know a lot of people that bought that game and still own it and never play it. And then a couple of them still say it's good. And I'm like, bro, are you insane? You're just lying. You're just lying at this point to cope. You're coping because you paid too much money for a game that you don't want to play.
The fact that developers are held to these quotas at all. So they were, quote, pushing for a black or female lead in a Star Wars game. Now, what this tells me is that the character and the story don't matter as much as their identity. So this is why we're no longer getting well-written and actually interesting, strong female leads in games. Women have become a box that needs to be checked. We can sort of see this in the kind of criticism that games that go against the current are receiving as well.
I mean, it's not just women it needs to be a box. Literally every step of the way, it's just boxes getting checked.
Like Black Myth Wukong. An issue that some reviewer had was that they didn't come across any female characters in the beginning of the game. Now, there are female characters in Wukong, but if you don't meet them straight away, that is bad for some reason. We're not letting developers tell a story how they want to tell it, how it's meant to be told. We need to dictate how they're telling these stories so that they will fit our standards. In the year 2000, 24 years ago, Diablo 2 came out. Now this was years before we had any of these new ideas and standards. The game's opening act centers around the women who were forced to leave their monastery because of the Demon Queen and Dario. These women are warriors themselves or rogues, perfectly capable of holding their own, but they do seek the hero's help, which can be male or female depending on your class, as they are being overrun by their corrupted sisters. The first mini-boss is a callback to one of the main classes in Diablo 1, then we have the Countess, which is a really clever historical reference to Elizabeth Bathory, or one of the
Man, I need to go back and play Diablo 2. It's been so long. I think I was 12 when I played Diablo 2 last. That was 16 years ago? No. Yes. Damn. Was 14. 14? How old am I?
The most prolific female serial killers of all time. Now, this fits the world perfectly, and above all, it's just great for Act 1. Finally, you face my favorite boss in the game, Andariel, the Maiden of Anguish. I go back to Diablo 2 all the time because it feels like you're actually part of like a really dark and interesting story. None of it feels forced. The characters don't appear to have been added for the sake of any quotas or checked boxes, and it's all very natural and organic. I know in the past there were of course games that had, say, over-the-top depictions with female characters, and an example that is often brought up is Mortal Kombat 9. But the thing about this is, everything in Mortal Kombat was historically over the top. Like, we're talking literally pulling someone's spine out or feeding their spleen back to them. I don't know, I made that one up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was real. Like, a whole rating system had to be created because of these games. So really, I don't know if I would see it as like a valid complaint. Like, it's there, I get it, but also it is what it is. However, in the modern industry, we're sort of going in the complete opposite direction, and it's
Man, I like those Mortal Kombat characters. Mortal Kombat Armageddon is my favorite one, and it's the best one in my opinion still. Second best one was just the one that was called Mortal Kombat. That one was great.
Honestly doing more harm than good. Truthfully, and this is coming from a female gamer who is supposedly the audience for these new games, I would much rather watch paint dry than pay for this shit. Or level a warrior to 60 in WoW Classic, which is effectively the same thing. The main content on my channel has been centered around Elder Scrolls games, mainly Morrowind and Oblivion, which are both almost 2 decades old. And in 2024, I was able to grow a channel from 0 to where we are now, because I am not the only person who is so stuck on these old games. I've gone over my personal feelings and reasons why I feel like modern gaming has just forgotten about people like me, in the name of supposedly including me more, but different people have different reasons for sticking to the beloved classics. A recent controversy, which most of you have probably heard of, was the showcase of an Assassin's Creed game that is based in Japan. We have Japanese gamers coming out and saying that they don't get it. It's offensive. There's a petition out there to cancel the release of this game in Japan. And why? Because the game's protagonist is a foreigner that gets to whoop Japanese people up and down the block. Tell me why, in Assassin's Creed 2, we have an Italian protagonist in Italy. We have a Native American guy in America in Assassin's Creed 3. We have a French protagonist in France. Why could we not have a Japanese protagonist in Japan?
Well, she knows the answer. She already knows the answer. You know the answer. We all know it.
Gamers don't relate to this at all, and some of them have even highlighted other inaccuracies in the game which are disrespectful to their culture and their country, shows a huge lack of research from the developer side, but I guess their opinion doesn't matter because probably a straight man told them to think that way. I feel like it's a real shame that there's this awkwardness, or it can be seen as controversial to express these opinions, because if we're not going to get to talk about this, we are forever going to continue having this huge rift between gamers and developers, many failed projects in the future, lots of people losing their jobs over said failed projects. This brings me to the Elder Scrolls 6. I'm at a point where I don't know if I even want them to go there anymore, because by today's standards there is just so much that could go wrong. A few months ago I came across this really spicy hot take that said this.
Skyrim, the game by Bethesda, is a pro-colonization narrative and is racist.
Now, I did a full response to that video on my TikTok account when it came out, so I will leave it in the description of this video if you want to see that, but in short, I said the depiction does not equal endorsement. I'm seeing that we're starting to have a real problem with media literacy, like it's non-existent. So just because a particular topic is discussed in any piece of media, it is suddenly endorsed, it is shown as a good thing, according to these people. This girl gave many examples of depictions of race.
That's a good way to show that you have not actually played it, and you've just kind of ran through the controls and just kind of ran around and did stuff and then quit. And just maybe watched some videos on it. You got the general vibe of it, and you didn't really play it. Is because you think that all the people in here are good? No, none of them are. None of the people are good. Not a single one. You're not good as the player. There's not a single good character in those games. Everyone is bad.
Racism in Skyrim, like where you can see the Nords ganging up on a dark elf in Windhelm.
Bunch of murderers. They're all a bunch of murderers. They're all killing each other, eating each other, stabbing each other in the back.
And harassing her, referring to her race as the Greyskins, which is an attempt at a slur. But lest we forget, ladies and gentlemen, that the Dark Elves of Morrowind are not too fond of Outlanders themselves, or Enwas, as they call them. You see, Skyrim is an already incredibly diluted game when it comes to—
Well, let me tell you, I wouldn't like cat people either.
Heavy and difficult topics compared to its predecessors. Like, I'm pretty sure that regardless of your race in the game, you may see slight dialogue differences, but you'll still have equal
Don't get me started on the lizard people.
opportunities for progression throughout the game. It doesn't really change your journey much, whereas in Morrowind, based on your race, you'll actually have a different disposition with different races. So I guess you can call that racism built into the game, but it's just a realistic depiction of how different peoples would react to Outlanders in their homeland. Not
Honestly, I wish it was a little bit more racist. I wish they were like cracking jokes all the time. Like have them working together and be a couple of them are just cracking hateful racist jokes at each other. We don't get enough of that, and that's what would happen in real life when you get people of different races together doing tasks.
Not only that, Morrowind deals with the very heavy topic of slavery. The player, while having the option to free slaves, can just as easily not help, and in some cases make things worse. In Skyrim, there really isn't an action that you can take that compares to that. In fact, the way in which these racist encounters are presented are meant to make you feel sorry for the person being harassed and not the other way around. So if Skyrim, as I've said, is already a more diluted version of events, and is still causing such a stir with these people,
I wish I could just take them for myself and take them back to, what's it called? The Hearthstone or wherever. Hearthfire? My lake house. Take them back to my lake house and have some slaves.
what can we expect from the next installment of the Elder Scrolls? Because unfortunately, these are the kind of people that are being listened to. Should we expect anything? Aren't we better off just replaying Oblivion for the billionth time instead of expecting like a complex and interesting story to come out of the next game? I'm also worried about the incessant attempts at monetization after you've already purchased a game, or if you're paying some sort of subscription. How are they going to implement their store into the game? I don't know about anyone else, but when I go into a game and I scroll to a page in the title screen where I'm seeing euro signs everywhere, it just takes me out of it. Not to mention
that is like one of the worst things. That's why I play a lot of old games, is because of stores. If there is a store in your game, I'm probably not going to play it. I really don't even want to play Path of Exile because there's a store in it, even though it's free. I'm just really not into free games either. I like to pay for my games, and I like for there to not be a store in it at all. For any reason. Quit trying to sell me things that I want to buy. I don't want to buy them though.
Mention how some companies just take it way too far. Like Blizzard's greed in adding the level 60 boost to TBC Classic ruined TBC for me and for many others. Now, I know Elder Scrolls 6 isn't going to be an MMO, but they will likely try to continue monetizing the game long after you've purchased it, and I don't mean overpriced DLC. If the next Elder Scrolls game is just gonna give our beloved franchise a bad name, honestly, I'd rather not have it at all. Keep it a mystery and I'll just keep playing my old games. And that's it. This is me coming back after 2 months with my boomer
I'll wait until there's mods to take all that crap out of it.
takes. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I do apologize for being gone for so long. I couldn't have predicted it this time around, but I'm hopefully here to stay right now. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Be seeing you. Bye.
I like this chick. This chick's awesome. Yeah, right now, for the foreseeable future, I'm playing old games. And maybe in 3 years, I'll play Baldur's Gate 3 and finally beat it like I want to. I'll play through it one time, but I want to actually beat it. And I gotta get through all these old games first, and I don't see any new games coming out anytime. Civilization 7. But other than that, I don't see any new games coming out that I actually want to play. There are probably some. You'll have to remind me down there in the comments. Give her a like and a subscribe. Valve's operating system will dominate gaming. And it already kind of has been. I thought about downloading it. I thought about getting a handheld and just wiping it and putting the Valve system on it. Oh, well, you're getting a like anyway, Mr. 30K subscribers, man. Water CS2.
SteamOS for PC and third-party manufacturers, and years later, SteamOS 3 still has no official release. But now, Valve just added new branding logos and guidelines. One is for SteamOS, hinting that Valve is getting closer to letting others use it for their own devices. But we also just learned about a new Valve device, codenamed Fremont. SteamOS is Valve's Linux-based operating system that became available in 2013.
Are we about to get to the era where we buy the box and put the operating system that we want to use on it ourselves? Are we getting to that point? That's basically like PC though, but it's simpler. I like it because you don't have to worry about parts, really. You can just get yourself one system, and it can be handheld if you want it. Yeah, we're getting to a weird area where we're just having everything. We're getting everything.
After various versions throughout the years, like version 1 Alchemist and version 2 Brewmaster, which are now both discontinued, plus the SteamOS Clockwork prototype, which is also discontinued, Valve is currently using version 3, known as Hollow, that you can find on the Steam Deck. SteamOS 3 is built on a rolling release distribution based on Arch Linux. It has a KDE Plasma desktop and a Proton layer, and has been fully optimized for gaming with a direct Steam integration. The open source nature of SteamOS encourages community involvement and customization, the exact opposite of Windows. The thing is, when Valve released the Steam Deck with SteamOS 3, no public version ever came out, although they have confirmed they are working on it. In the Steam repo, it says an installer for you.
When they come out with it, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try it. I've actually wanted to start a Linux. Maybe I'll even start a Linux channel because I do use Linux a lot. I'm always playing with it, almost every day. Could make weekly Linux videos. I don't know. Let me know what I should do with that.
Use on generic PC hardware is planned, but not currently available. Also, in the Steam Deck booklet,
maybe I'll just make a video on gaming on Linux every so often, because it's really easy. You see all these guys like, I switched to Linux, and they don't know what they're doing, or other guys that are like, here, I'll show you how to switch to Linux, and then it's overcomplicated. It's so easy. They always show you the wrong things, and everybody always says that, but like, it's so easy anyway.
Says will soon be shipping a general installer for SteamOS, enabling any PC to take advantage of all of its features. In addition, we'll soon be making SteamOS available for other manufacturers who wish to make a gaming device of their own. But it's already been multiple years and still no official release date has been set for SteamOS 3. It's not even like it's something Valve quietly cancelled, as in August 2024, Lawrence Yang, a Valve designer, said, the team is continuing to work on adding support for additional handhelds on SteamOS. Valve is making steady progress, but it isn't ready to run out of the box yet. So the real negative of SteamOS 3 is that it was originally built for the Steam Deck, which means that we have to wait until Valve makes it compatible with other hardware. So if you have been waiting for your own Steam machine, it might not be as far away as you think. This week, Valve shared a new brand guideline document for third-party software, hardware, and games. They all depend on their official use, like VR, or if you can play Steam at a brick-and-mortar location, but the main new icon—
Dude, if we get to the point where we've got, like, good VR on something like a Steam Deck or any kind of handheld, we're getting to some crazy territory, especially with if we just got something that's like the Oculus, just fits right over your eyes. You know, that we're getting to ridiculous territory.
We need to talk about is powered by Steam.
We're getting to the cyberpunk era. Cyberpunk 2077 is becoming real life.
OS. The powered by SteamOS logo indicates that a hardware device will run the SteamOS and boot into SteamOS upon powering on the device. Partners/manufacturers will ship hardware with a Steam image in the form provided by and/or developed in close collaboration with Valve. So now that they have this publicly available, it indicates Valve has made a lot of progress for SteamOS 3 and allowing others to use it. It's important to know that this icon is only for third-party manufacturers, and there isn't anything new for using SteamOS on the PC, which might just come a bit later. Last year, when asked—
So right now, it's looking like it's only going to be available on handhelds on install or with handhelds that have components that are compatible
Asked about a release for SteamOS 3, Valve designer Lawrence Yang said, "It's very high on our list. It's on our list and we are working on it." But a lot of the same people that would make the general install of SteamOS available are the same people that are making Galileo, which is the Steam Deck OLED, work. We're hoping soon though. It's very high on our list and we want to make
So sometime after the new Steam Deck releases, maybe.
SteamOS more widely available. We'll probably start with making it more available to other handhelds with a similar gamepad style controller, and then further beyond that to more arbitrary devices. I think the biggest thing is just, driver support and making sure that it can work on whatever PC it happens to land on. Because
Imagine if we get a Steam phone, that'd be crazy.
right now, it's very tuned for a Steam Deck. Now that it is the holiday season, instead of opening up cases and getting nothing, Clash GG is running a Christmas event. They are raffling away a souvenir of
Gross.
Dragonlord Kool-Aid
No.
every
I don't like
Water
gambling.
CS, free more gem. Water
Sorry.
gamers did excited for Valve to challenge Microsoft with Windows. Even if you're not interested in handheld gaming, although it keeps growing with Sony and Xbox now making their own handhelds, Valve's plan for a PC installer will be a massive game changer. SteamOS is a free operating system designed for gamers by Valve. When Linus did a performance test of SteamOS 3 versus Windows 10, SteamOS had a higher average frame per second for every game they tested. This is great if you are
Same for me too on just my regular Linux machine. It's like, I get like a 10% boost pretty much across the board.
a gamer who cares about performance. But this is just one of the many things Valve is working on right now. We just got to see new models for their Roy Deckard controllers and also the Steam controller too, with Valve announcing raising the
That looks interesting. They look like ping pong paddles almost.
controllers and also the Steam controller.
But that looks really interesting. If that's actually a concept design and not just something that he found, just put a clip in there. That looks very interesting too. But those buttons look kind of big. I don't see this being an actual real thing.
Controller too. With Valve announcing Raising the Bar 2 coming out in 2025, we have an exciting time ahead of us, especially as we keep getting more information about whatever else Valve could be working on behind the scenes. SteamOS was originally designed as a living room experience, allowing you to play PC games without a mouse and keyboard. So, with the Steam Controller 2 getting closer, could we see them released together? It would make perfect sense to take advantage of Valve's operating system with a new controller, which is also heavily based on the design of the Steam Deck that already uses SteamOS 3.
Because they make sense on the Steam Deck. But they're just kind of big on a controller. I feel like they would get accidentally pressed. Unless they're embedded into it like this is, but still. It just looks bulky and weird on a controller.
This wasn't all that has been recently found. Reddit user CoolBHO3K found a new SteamOS device Valve is working on, codenamed Fremont. In a recent update by Valve, they found this change in the Steam Deck kernel of a Valve dev testing HDMI CEC for a new device that is being developed on AMD Lilac. The current tests for AMD Lilac show that it is significantly faster than a Steam Deck, and going by what we know so far for the Fremont, which is very little, all speculation is for it to be a TV box console that uses SteamOS. This adds on to all the other products Valve is working on right now that keep getting closer. It's very similar to when Valve showed off their hardware product.
So they really want to make it just plug and play with games, plug and play. You don't have to tinker with it or nothing. Just plug it into your TV and go. And that's just, they got a whole system going, man. They're basically their own like console company that's like Xbox and PlayStation at this point.
Back in 2015. With Valve's Steam Controller 2, you would need SteamOS 3 to take advantage of it, which with Valve's upcoming Fremont device, you could easily turn your TV into a Steam console. Now that you are up in gaming, Valve also has their new Deckard they are planning, a wireless head-mounted display with brand new controllers on the way. The interesting thing...
That's funny, Xbox is doing the exact same thing. They want to turn your TV into a console.
Is almost 10 years ago in 2015, Valve showed off a bunch of their new tech, and here we are coming up on the 10-year anniversary. We keep learning new info about devices Valve is working on right now, so what are the chances Valve comes out with a similar announcement, but with brand new products in 2025? I'm excited to see what Valve plans are for the Fremont and every other upcoming device. Valve looked at their failures and the successes with their previous products to improve on what they're currently working on. So what are your thoughts on a plug-in box with SteamOS? This isn't a new idea by Valve, but it would be done with their new standard for hardware. It's important to note that any download for SteamOS that's out right now is either extremely outdated or is an unofficial SteamOS 3, so make sure you wait until Valve comes out with their official release. It won't be long until SteamOS is being used on third-party devices, which means the SteamOS 3 release for PC won't be long after.
And that's what I'll be waiting for. I really want to check that out. Hopefully it's great. I would totally... If it's viable to move my system over to SteamOS for everything that I'm doing right now, I would totally do it.
In a recent SteamOS update, Valve added support for extra ROG ally keys, which is confirmed by Valve to be related to third-party support for SteamOS. So how much longer until SteamOS is on another device? I'm curious how interested you are.
Man, Windows better watch out. Steam's gonna take over the console and handheld market. I see Windows trying to get it. They got Windows 11 on these handhelds, but it just it doesn't work as well. I think it's not going to work as well as Linux, the SteamOS.
Are in using SteamOS 3 for your PC. In the November 2024 Steam survey, Windows dominates on a margin that isn't even close as Linux sits with 2%. But what will happen when Valve makes SteamOS public? Could we see a large-scale shift over time? Valve is one of the top liked companies in
They will if it's better.
terms of gaming and software in general. So will you use their operating system that is designed specifically for gamers? Or what?
It's going to get people used to the Linux system. So when they actually get to like professional level, when they get out of just regular basic gaming and go to a PC, they're going to be more likely to use Linux because they already know Linux. And I think that is an incredibly good thing.
What are your thoughts on any of their new devices that will be taking advantage of SteamOS 3? Valve has said SteamOS will continue to evolve, including new features and improvements to game compatibility through Proton that will continue.
Man, that just means that all of this is going to be coming to the rest of the Linux community for us to use. Hopefully all of it, but at least most of it will. And it's just going to be so good. I can smell it. I can smell it.
Continue throughout Steam Deck's life well into the future versions of the product, and the compatibility work for Steam Deck will be inherited by other platforms like Chrome OS. Anyway, this is a multi-generational product line. Valve will support Steam Deck and SteamOS well into the foreseeable future. We will learn from the Steam community about new uses for our hardware that we haven't thought of yet, and we will build new versions, so make sure you subscribe to not miss what device Valve decides to release next.
That was a good video. I'm glad I gave it a like early. Water CS2. I'll give you a subscribe too, even though I didn't like the gambling ad in the middle of it. But yeah, Steam's gonna end up dominating the Windows market, really, not just the gaming market. This is the Windows market, and it's going to hurt them. And they're already hurting a little bit. They may be seeing better profits than they've ever seen, but like they're going to have to be switching their business away from gaming because they're losing badly. Especially like what Xbox games are coming out in the future, and where are they going to be releasing them? I'm going to take a quick break, about 5 minutes,
just wish he knew. I just wish he knew.
Great timing on the music again. Damn. I've got wonderful timing today. And I'm getting through these videos just fine. Barely any interruptions this time. It is great. I'm gonna announce again. I've got super thanks, super chats. Super thanks is what I prefer. And also PayPal down in the description if you want to help me with my movie series that I've got coming out about, I guess I'm reviewing movies, kind of, but old movies. They're old movies that I liked when I was growing up and as a teenager, and even that I've seen recently. But they're all still mostly old movies. Anyway, yeah, if you want help with that, I've got stuff down there. You can donate. Let's get back into the videos. Video game piracy is good, actually, says Lextorius. I might have seen this video before. It says that I didn't see it before, but who knows? I've watched a lot of videos and I've had multiple accounts. This is the only one that I've had for a long time. I'll go ahead and give you a preemptive like, because I know this one's going to be good. I'm probably going to agree with mostly everything. I'll save that subscribe.
This video is for the purposes of entertainment and satire. I am not a lawyer. None of the opinions expressed are meant to be taken as serious legal advice or argument. Any reference to illegal actions are entirely hypothetical.
True.
Piracy is amazing, and you should do it in real life as much as possible. This is not a joke. Go out and pirate something right now.
Already 10 out of 10 intro. I love it.
Lost some of you already with the title of this video and that opening bit. Piracy, especially as it relates to video games, has become a very complicated topic. perhaps even the most complicated topic, since it simultaneously deals with legality, morality, and ethics, which I don't know if you knew, people tend to have pretty extreme opinions about. A lot of big companies and people online villainize piracy, and make it out to be much worse than I think it actually is, sometimes straight up lying about it to try and condemn the people who do it. So I thought it would be fun to go through a bit of a defense of piracy and try to debunk a lot of these myths. My patrons also voted for me to make this video, so if I go to jail for this, I'm blaming you. To give a quick definition,
I don't think you're gonna go to jail, but you could definitely maybe cross the line with YouTube and get possibly banned or at least the video taken down. But it didn't get taken down.
Piracy is any act of robbery or criminal violence by a ship or its crew upon another ship or... Wait, no, that's not it. Piracy is broadly defined as the unauthorized copying or distribution of copyrighted works. A lot of people are quick to say it's theft, including Joe Biden back in 2011. And that's definitely how anti-piracy groups would like you to see it. In fact, they started an ad campaign in the 80s that
I just like to own my stuff and be able to do what I want with it, damn it. DRM free.
invented the term piracy is theft in an attempt to villainize copying software. But I just want to start by clearing this up. Piracy is just copyright infringement. They are synonymous. When you do a piracy, the only law being broken is copyright. There is no theft or stealing involved. Let me explain. If I rob a GameStop, they actively lose out on all the copies of Forspoken that I might take from them. Those copies might not be worth a lot because I don't think anyone bought that game, but GameStop doesn't have them anymore, which is what makes it theft. But even if I make 1 trillion copies of Big Mother Truckers 2 Truck Me Harder, real game by the way, and give them to all my friends.
I used to have that game, and I also am pretty sure that it was an arcade game. Because it had to have been. I have faint memories of playing it at the State Line liquor store, or truck stop next to the liquor store, growing up, because they had arcade machines in there.
The developers didn't lose a thing. They still have all their original copies, nothing was taken, no theft occurred. And this is backed by the US government, ever since Dowling v. United States in 1985, where they agreed that interference with copyright, aka piracy, does not easily equate with theft, conversion, or fraud. The infringer of a copyright does not assume physical control over the copyright, nor wholly deprive its owner of its use. Also, a lot of people love misusing the term piracy to just describe any time they think people owe them money. Adblock, for example, has nothing to do with copyright. Watching this video and blocking all the ads isn't even related to distribution or copying, and there's no law saying that you have to watch ads on videos. So when companies like German media conglomerate Axel Springer try suing ad blockers for piracy, they always lose in court. This should be obvious, but just because you want more money from people doesn't mean they're pirating from you. Not making someone more money isn't a crime. Otherwise, I could say that this video is sponsored by GamerSupps and then have you arrested if you don't buy something from them, because I could have potentially made a sale from every person that watches this video.
If you could though, man, you'd be selling a lot of GamerSupps.
Anyway, this video is sponsored by GamerSupps, a 0-calorie energy drink formula that's tastier and cheaper than canned energy drinks. If you don't go to gamersupps.gg/Lextorious right now and save 10% off on your next order, I will have you sent to prison where you belong, you piece of shit. So if piracy...
Damn, I guess I better be getting me some more GamerSupps. I've had some in the past, but I stopped ordering it for some reason. I don't know. This stuff is good. GamerSupps, sponsor me.
Isn't stealing because you're not taking anything, then what actually is it and why is it illegal? Well, you see, the whole point of copyright is that you have exclusive rights to the things you make. If I write...
GamerSupps, you see this purple thing behind me? I can turn that into a GamerSupps logo. Let me tell you.
A story, I don't just own the pages I wrote on, but the words on the page too. And I have full legal control over who has access to those words. All piracy is someone getting around that access, doing something that the law says only I'm allowed to do. So if you buy my story, take it home and write it down word for word, you're violating my copyright. If it's an ebook that you transfer onto a thumb drive, then give that to a friend, you're committing a crime. The law says you need my permission to do any of that, even if you do it, up to 70 years after I'm dead. To put it plainly, the World Intellectual Property Organization, the leading international pro-copyright group, says copyrights may more narrowly be viewed as limited and legally sanctioned monopolies. And if that's what the people advocating for it say, you can only imagine what the people who are against copyright might call it. Because yes, there are tons of different groups over the years that have fought for the abolition or reworking of copyright laws, such as various pirate parties around the world or the hilariously named copyleft movement. And I don't want to get too deep into any of that, I just want to highlight how contentious copyright laws are in general. They aren't the end-all be-all of dictating what's right and wrong. Though, to give a fun example of copyright in action, in 2006 the Dutch musician Melchior Rietveld granted use of his song for a short film in a film festival. They allowed that song to be used for free for this one-off performance. However, Rietveld later found out that the short film had been put on thousands of DVDs without his permission, which he didn't get paid for. Rietveld then sued the filmmakers for copyright infringement and won, getting all 100,000 euros that those DVDs would have been worth. Why am I using this example specifically? Well, because the short film in question was an anti-piracy ad. The internet was actually convinced that it was the "you wouldn't steal a car" ad that everybody loves, though while that ad has its own problems, it is completely different to the one that ironically committed piracy. But oh,
You wouldn't download a house. You wouldn't download a car. No. If I had the ability to do that, you're damn right I would.
what the heck, here's a clip. God, it is so good. My favorite part is that it has to remind you that stealing is against the law. I don't know why they had to add that, but it's a banger. And according to some sources,
Man, I was seeing that everywhere. It was like on every channel, and it would play every other commercial break. All different ones for years, and nobody cared. It was just a meme.
it increased rates of piracy
Yep.
because of how cool it made it look. There's a great report about the ineffectiveness of anti-piracy ads in general that I read that made the amazing point that pirates would often cut these ads out of films, so the only people who would watch them were paying customers, which effectively made them advertisements for piracy.
Piracy. Look, super mega rock and roll gods and superstars are just regular dudes like you guys. We punch the clock, we put
Have a better service. Just saying. It's not hard. Just go DRM free. But there should be places like GOG, like good old games, but for music and movies and TV shows where you can get DRM free stuff where you can just download the file and have it. And like, it doesn't matter if you have the ability to distribute it, you're not going to want to, because your friends don't care. And if they really did care, they would just go buy it themselves, because it's that easy. And they'd always have it. It's not hard. It's all just like greediness and like mine. You can make so much more money.
put on the pants, and then we blow people's minds. That's how we make a living. And then these pirates come and they steal all our internets. I don't know how they do it, but these pirates can bust into our entertainers' homes, make us walk the plank, steal our rockin' tunes, and leave us broke. Is that what you want, Mr. Long John Silver? What's your parrot gonna listen to when you go toe-to-toe against the English Armada? Jazz? I don't think so.
Now, piracy is illegal in the US, and due to things like the Bernay Convention, also illegal in many places allied with the US. Though, just like with anti-piracy ads, the law never really stopped anybody. Also, piracy laws either don't exist or straight up aren't enforced in a ton of places, especially China and Russia. So a lot of companies took the task of stopping pirates into their own hands. I mean, if you can't arrest someone for obtaining copies,
I believe Russia came out and said straight up, like, no, keep doing your piracy thing. Keep pirating stuff. Probably because they were mostly pirating stuff from the United States. But I think that's pretty funny.
why not try to make it impossible to copy something to begin with? Before the switch from analog to digital, the way companies would stop you from duplicating your favorite VHS copy of Turner and Hooch was just making it so the output was scrambled if you tried to turn the VCR to record mode. But with computers came programming, and with programming came more advanced kinds of copy prevention, all of which are dubbed digital rights management software, or DRM. And I should clarify, to call any of this copy prevention is a bit of a stretch. It's more like copy delaying, or copy mild inconvenience in most cases. Because after all, one of the main reasons people get into programming in the first place is to problem solve fun challenges with computers. And so, as it turns out, giving a bunch of computer nerds a fat, juicy challenge to solve that would also let them play games for free if they beat it meant they would dedicate their lives to solving these problems. Getting around DRM became a very competitive game for pirates, even in the early days of computers. Back in the era of
the only way you're gonna get around piracy is if you have a better service than piracy provides, which would be have everything there in front of you where you can buy it all and do whatever you want with it, rather than having to search for it online and get sketchy files sometimes, and not have good files, broken files, and not get what you're wanting exactly. It blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Apple II and the Commodore 64, they formed circles called wares groups that would trade games and try to crack the software, each of them rushing to be the first one to bypass a new game or program to get all the fame that came with it, almost always signing their name on fancy splash screens they made to proudly display their achievement. These crackers, hold on, can I say that word? These white people kept up this tradition to this very day, with the NFO files packed alongside pirated copies of games, which are usually the only ways that wares groups will communicate with the outside world. And while the groups individually would rise and fall and fade into obscurity, the scene itself is surprisingly still going strong. Strong enough that in 1998, the US would create the DMCA Act, which is most famously known for protecting websites like YouTube from copyright lawsuits, so long as they provide a way for the website to take down copyrighted material. But they also made it specifically illegal to try and circumvent copy prevention systems. This had the intended effect of allowing anti-piracy groups to go after the wares scene and various crackers much harder than before, but had the unintended effect of making it illegal for people to fix everything from John Deere tractors to their own pacemakers, because in doing so you had to mess.
Unintended effect? Unintended? No, they lobbied to try and get that through
with the copy prevention software. Boy, United States law sure is great, huh?
I think that internet swapping and trading of different things is pretty cool, man. Kids want to listen to music, you know? I don't think bands should be so concerned with making every penny that should be squeezed out of everything. It's like, I want kids in Thailand to rock out when we show up to Thailand, you know? I don't care if they bought the record or not. They download it off their computer right on.
Bass Dave Grohl, man. Not as based anymore. He's kind of old, kind of got lame. But back in the day, damn.
They taped it off of their friend right on. It means they like music.
Piracy as a whole then got a ton of notoriety around 1999 when a little website called Napster came out and dropped a fucking nuke on the music industry that it would never quite get over. So anti-piracy groups in the years following, as well as the companies making DRM, massively stepped up their game. One of the first big attempts at impossible to crack DRM was Star Force, which managed to keep Splinter Cell Chaos Theory unpirated for a world record 422 days. But Star Force also, unfortunately, required full control over your entire PC, couldn't be uninstalled, and ran so poorly that tech websites claimed it would brick your CD drive, which caused Ubisoft to be on the receiving end of a $5 million class action lawsuit for using it, and later caused them to drop it entirely. The software to replace Star Force was then SecureROM, which would physically measure where data was on your disk and then authenticate that data by making you activate your copy on an online server. And this was used on everything from Mass Effect to BioShock to GTA 4, with some pretty okay results.
I remember that. I remember Mass Effect. I had, what was it, Mass Effect 2? It had something similar where you had to use a key to actually use it. And it doesn't work anymore. It does not work anymore. Ain't that a bitch?
However, in order to work, it also, for some reason, required access to everything on your computer, also couldn't be uninstalled, would shut the game off if you ran any other programs, and would sometimes make you reactivate your copy as often as every 10 days, which landed EA with multiple lawsuits this time after they included it in the release of Spore. And the cherry on top of all this, Spore went on to become the most pirated game of all time in 2008, and there's
I think it still is. Like, if you go on the websites and you take a look, Spore is still up there.
There's a good chance it only got there because of how many people hated the DRM. Now, when I tell you that the next and most famous DRM software to come out, Denuvo, was made by the same people who made SecureROM, you should start to see a pattern here. Denuvo is the most sophisticated copy prevention we've seen so far. And by most sophisticated, I mean it took Wares groups a whole month to crack games like Dragon Age Inquisition instead of the typical day. It then took 8 months to crack Rise of the Tomb Raider after Denuvo rewrote their whole program from the ground up. And then Hitman 2 got cracked several days before launch. So yeah, the way it works is obviously hush hush, but the basic gist from what I've heard is that like SecureROM, it connects to servers to validate your game files. But instead of checking physical data on a disk, it makes a unique key for every computer it's installed on, then keeps the game's code encrypted and only decrypts it on the fly as long as that key remains valid. If that sounds insane to you, it should, because Denuvo has been proven to cause performance issues and slower load times in games that use it, since sometimes it just can't decrypt that data fast enough. Just to name a few examples, Devil May Cry 5 saw a 25% performance increase, and Resident Evil Village got rid of major stuttering issues after Capcom removed Denuvo from the games. And Tekken 7 director Katsuhiro Harada directly blamed Denuvo for the game having bad performance at launch.
I quit playing Tekken 7 because it had bad performance. And did it get good performance again? Is Tekken 7 good? Is it a good game? I own it. I just never really played it because it ran bad.
The worst part of all this to me is that just like how people who bought movies legally were the only ones who saw anti-piracy ads, people who buy games legally often get worse performance than they would from a pirated copy because of the DRM. So it's become a widespread practice for companies to remove Denuvo from their games the second it gets cracked, which leads to this absurdly hilarious situation where a game will come out, have performance issues, and the community has to wait for pirates to crack it so the Denuvo can be removed to clear the issues up. Now, to clarify, Denuvo still massively increases the average time it takes to crack a game, sometimes giving up the goods instantly, but sometimes giving about a month before something gets pirated, maybe even a year if the game isn't popular enough to attract the few crackers who know how to break it. And the crackers themselves have had some pretty big ups and downs the last several years or so.
Just make it less sense to pirate it. Make it make more sense to actually buy it. Make it, because then you'd be able to download it and always have it, and it'd be there for you to always download.
So, with many groups disbanding or getting raided by the police, and a ton of drama happening between members. This video doesn't really focus that much on them, but I'll link to a great Reddit thread that details a basic history of the scene and a lot of the drama that went on around one particular cracker, Empress. And I also suggest reading the Wikipedia article that just lists all the Wares groups, because that's pretty fun too. Ultimately, despite how terrible and ineffective it is for a lot of games, publishers keep putting in Denuvo and DRM in general because it can hopefully keep their game locked up long enough to survive the initial sales window. They are terrified of piracy and are often willing to hurt the consumer in order to just delay the inevitable. So let's talk a little bit about why they're so afraid.
I hear terrible things about piracy. I've been hearing them for decades. People love to say that piracy is costing the industry so much money and it's horrible and undermining everything. I listen. I don't see a lot of evidence for that. But what happens is if you make a game that runs slower or takes longer to start up or whatever, will become unplayable if someone loses a piece of paper, you're going to drive valid consumers away from your product. Whether they buy it or not, or whether they pirate it or not, they're not going to buy it. Because once someone pirates and they have wiped those measures, if the game's better because of it, if it runs faster, has a better frame rate, doesn't pause occasionally, starts up really fast, why would you want to play the valid one?
Piracy's effect on sales is incredibly difficult to track.
That's how I'm feeling about emulators and shit right now. I'm like, why would I get the actual versions of older games if emulators are just so much better?
The intuitive answer is that it certainly should have some, but how big of an effect and how
Forza 4 just died. They just said they're taking it off the market. And like, buy it now because they're done. Like, what is that? Of course people are going to pirate that.
much would change if piracy didn't exist is near impossible to find conclusive evidence on. Don't get me wrong, if you want to find studies on piracy, you can find hundreds, and I have. There are more research papers on the effects of piracy than I could count. But that's the problem, because they all contradict each other. Like, if I wanted to, I could show you a report from the European Commission in 2013 that showed that music piracy had zero effect on legal music sales, saying the vast majority of music that is consumed illegally by the individuals in our sample would not have been legally purchased if illegal downloading websites were not available to them. I could show you another report that said even though 51% of all adults in the EU had pirated something at some point in their life, this had no negative effect on sales in most industries, and in the case of video games actually led to a 24% increase in sales, likely from word of mouth and people buying games after they pirate them. A conclusion that several other reports I found also show for video games and other industries. But I could also show you reports that conclude the exact opposite. Ones that say piracy negatively impacts music sales or movie sales or game sales, some saying it doesn't have an effect on one but a strong effect on another. If you gather enough reports on this, many of them will say completely different things, because they're all using different data and methodologies. So just like I picked out studies showing piracy to have a positive effect, you can easily group up studies with negative effects and then make a conclusion from that. You know, piracy definitely hurts sales. Here are a dozen studies that say so. Just ignore the ones that disagree with me. Another thing to point out is that the vast majority of these studies can only ever prove correlation. They'll show that piracy went up some percentage and sales in some industry went down some percentage, and then just say that as piracy goes up, sales go down, which is fine data to collect in a vacuum, but there's a reason that they all say research suggests that piracy may impact sales. Because I can show you a graph of beef jerky sales in the US and a graph of consensual incest in the US and say that beef jerky sales are correlated with incest. But I can't then say eating beef jerky makes you want to kiss your cousin, no matter how much we all know it to be true. Correlation doesn't mean causation. Correlation doesn't even really prove anything on its own. And even
also, what research and who are you researching? You doing surveys? Who's doing the surveys? Yeah, cool people I don't know anybody who does surveys. I say it all the time. Like, do you know anybody? Do you? In the comments, let me know if you or somebody you know have ever done like a survey for any of these studies.
Even the very thorough 300-page piracy studies I showed you will cite other factors that may be responsible, since there's so many variables you can't make a conclusion for sure. So that's just something to keep in mind.
When the web started, I used to get really grumpy with people because they put my poems up, they put my stories up, and I also got very grumpy because I felt like they were pirating my stuff, that it was bad. And then I started to notice that places where I was being pirated, I was selling more and more books. People were discovering me through being pirated. And I started to realize that actually you're not losing books. You're not losing sales. You can't look on that as a lost sale. It's not a lost sale. Nobody who would have bought your book is not buying it because they can find it for free. What you're actually doing is advertising. You're reaching more people. You're raising awareness. And understanding that gave me a whole new idea of the shape of copyright and of what the web was doing. Because the biggest thing the web is doing is allowing people to hear things, allowing people to read things, allowing people...
This guy is good. I like this guy.
...people to see things they might never have otherwise seen. And I think basically that's an incredibly good thing.
But regardless of
it's anarchism at its finest, ladies and gentlemen.
Actual impact, the perceived impact of piracy on game sales is very, very negative. Companies are quick to bring up piracy as a contributor to bad sales performance, and there's a reason so many do a deal with the devil that is DRM. Crytek, the company behind Crysis and Far Cry, even cited piracy as the main reason they stopped selling games exclusively on PC. According to the CEO, they somehow tracked how many people registered the game online and estimated that for every copy bought, 15 to 20 had been installed. Meaning, assuming the numbers are accurate, if even 10% of the pirates had bought the game, they would have doubled their revenue. However, even with that insane rate of piracy, the game made its production costs back, funded 3 more sequels, and became one of the highest selling PC games of all time. So it's pretty hard for me to agree that piracy hurt them that bad, but nonetheless, the sequel expansion Crisis Warhead launched with Secure ROM on it and was the last PC exclusive Crytek ever made. Here's where
I think about like 2% of that 10% would have bought the game, and the rest of them just wouldn't have bought it. Because I think a lot of people pirate games because they want to play a game, but not enough to actually buy it. And that's as simple as it gets.
Where it gets interesting though. Half a decade later, in 2014, Crytek tried transitioning to the games as a service market, with the CEO claiming that every game they'd make from then on would be free to play and always online. But this was after some underwhelming sales from Crysis 3 and Rise Son of Rome, a game I'm sure everybody remembers, which put the company on the brink of bankruptcy. To tell you how bad it got, Crytek reduced the size of their company by 40%, shut down all but 2 of their studios, and sold off their rights to Homefront. The CEO also didn't pay employees for several months because they said it would have put the company under. A former Crytek employee that got in contact with me said the company was still tracking how many pirated copies of their games there were, and still looked at piracy as a reason they weren't doing well. So they made the last-ditch attempt to push into games as a service, which slowly clawed them back to profitability with games like Hunt Showdown. Now, we likely won't ever know the full behind-the-scenes story of Crytek, but I can guarantee this is a common belief in the industry. It's pretty easy to look at your sales numbers declining and blame people playing the game for free, even if it can't be proven that they'd have bought your game anyways. After all, no studio has shut down specifically because of piracy, and Crytek's numbers only really declined after they implemented DRM and started making console exclusives. But even so, the hard-working employees making these games were the ones hurt in the end. And piracy is a very easy thing to
Also, I don't think anybody remembers Crysis, really. 'Cause Crysis was more of a tech demo, I think. I mean, it was fun, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of a little bit, it didn't have enough life to it. Didn't have enough character and emotion for most people, I think. It was too much of a hard game. Not hard as in difficulty, like, it was too much of a game for enthusiasts.
To blame for that. Also, an unrelated fun fact, in 2004, Crytek's offices were raided by German police for pirating software. Police didn't actually end up finding anything because it was a false alarm, so I just want to make that clear, but it is really funny. Now, this poor treatment of employees, or well, the Crytek CEO says that people were happy to not get paid, but I don't believe that for a second. This poor treatment of employees is widespread, and as we've seen recently, often happens where piracy doesn't. 2023 was the worst year for game developers on record. Over 1/3 of devs were laid off or knew someone who was, according to one survey. Included with those are Epic Games laying off 800 people, Niantic laying off 200, and of course, Microsoft recently letting go almost 2,000 people from places like Blizzard. Over 6,000 people lost their jobs this past year, and notably, a decent chunk of them were from companies making highly profitable online games. Ones that don't get cracked or have massive piracy issues, yet still drop their employees like a sack of potatoes in order to cut costs. The reason for layoffs and
You know what would really make your profits go up? If you make good games. If you make good games, everybody wants to buy it. Make them easily accessible. Put them everywhere. Make it available everywhere. Make it the most accessible. And then you won't have to worry about piracy.
Shutdowns and poor working conditions are all going to be different. I'm not saying the games industry is a monolith. However, Bobby Kotick left Activision Blizzard with a $400 million payout, and Epic Games' Tim Sweeney is worth $4 billion. So that's kind of weird, right? When most companies try to make a big stink about piracy and talk about all the money they're not making or all the employees that worked hard on their game, it can kind of ring hollow, because even if their game isn't pirated, even if their game is massively successful, the most successful of all time in fact, that company isn't guaranteed to treat their employees any better. More revenue from piracy not happening wouldn't give those overworked devs job security. A union would.
You know, there's assumption that what is piracy? Piracy is about people who want to steal stuff from you, right? That they don't want to pay any money and they want to get your content. But when you look at the fact that these people have, you know, $2,000 PCs and they're spending $50 a month on their internet connections, clearly they're willing to spend money. So from our point of view, what we saw more and more is that piracy is a result of bad service on the part of game companies. So when you attack the problem that...
There's a reason we call him Lord Gaben. Or Lord Gabe, whatever you want to call him. Gaben.
That way, by improving the service component of the experience rather than through copy protection, which reduces the service component. You know, copy protection is actually going to increase. I mean, there's anecdotal evidence that this is the case, that copy protection actually increases rather than decreases the piracy of games. So, like I say, by focusing on the customer and doing useful things for the customer, piracy really becomes sort of a non-issue for us.
So why don't we switch from the most common reasons people...
Seriously, I buy all of my games on Steam and all of my games on GOG. The ones that I don't buy are games that I actively hate the developers of, and games that are just hard to play, or games that are not available to me, especially old games that are not available to me that should be available to me somewhere.
People will say piracy is evil to the main reasons people will say piracy can be a good thing. That being for emulation and games preservation. Emulation, yet again, is not piracy, even though tons of people who don't like it will be quick to call it that. Emulation is just the ability for a computer to act like a video game console and run games for that console. It is perfectly legal to do, and several lawsuits like Sony v. Connectix and Sony v. Bleem all ruled in favor of emulation. The
only time it doesn't rule in favor is when they actively provide tools that are like for piracy, or point you in the direction of piracy.
Sega v. Accolade and Galoob Toys v. Nintendo even ruled that reverse engineering game cartridges and game consoles is legal, which became one of the few exemptions that the DMCA Act specifically allowed. Side note, I do wish some of the companies involved in landmark emulation cases had better names than Bleem or Galoob, but what can you do? Buying a game, dumping its contents onto a computer, loading the console's files into an emulator, and then playing that game on the emulator is 100% a-okay, no matter how much Sony and Nintendo wish it wasn't. Or rather, how much they wish it wasn't for other people, because official consoles like the NES Classic and PlayStation Classic are just emulators, and even HD re-releases of games...
Yeah, and they don't got even a lot of the good stuff that people end up emulating at home. So there really wasn't a point, it didn't really help anything.
Like Parappa the Rappa on PS4 were found to be running PSP emulators that just upscaled the game. So emulation is perfectly fine. Even the companies that put Connectix and Bleem into bankruptcy due to all their lawsuits use it to sell their crappy little anniversary consoles. When we talk about piracy in regards to emulation, it's just the same as every other kind. People who don't legally dump ROMs but just go ahead and download them instead. And buying games to play on emulators legally is not a very easy task. If you want to buy the original version of anything older than a couple console generations ago, you're probably going to have to go through a third party like eBay, which means none of your money is going to the people who made the game. And that's if the game is even for sale, since as we saw with the closure of the Nintendo eShop, there are thousands of digital titles that are just gone forever, save for pirated copies. In recent years, there have been major talks about games preservation, and piracy is often the only way older titles can be preserved. Physical copies will degrade over time, digital copies will be deleted from stores, but a copied ROM played on an emulator can be shared and archived forever, which is especially helpful when the company behind that game doesn't want to or sometimes can't officially sell it anymore.
Like Forza 4, and in this case they're getting rid of it because of licensed music. They could straight up just get rid of the music in it, or why are you going to put the music in it if the licenses are going to expire and then you're just going to take the game down? Are you going to bring it back up with different music in it? What about all of these other games from the past that had licensed music in it that haven't been taken down. It seems ridiculous to me.
God, just as I was writing this video, Spec Ops The Line got deleted from online storefronts. 2K says their license expired, so you just can't buy the game legally if you try. Oh well. And this is a problem that goes beyond preservation and emulation for a lot of people. I've been focusing on the US a lot here, but gaming in other countries is a whole different story. Just last year, Steam made changes to their pricing, which removed regional currencies from places like Argentina and Turkey. And so many developers just price their AAA titles the same as the US, at around 40 to 60 USD. The only problem being that those games now cost up to half the average monthly salary in those countries. On top of that, most games rarely get support outside of major populated countries. Valve famously ported their games to Russia and saw major sales there, but they were an outlier, and still kinda are. For a lot of people, pirating even new releases is the only way to realistically get them, unofficial translations being a large reason they even make it across a language barrier. Something anime fans are all probably familiar with, as fan translations are the only reason anime got popular in the West. There's a common argument against piracy that says it only hurts people working hard to make games. But in this case, piracy can be the only way to get people to enjoy that hard work. It's the only way people can preserve that hard work and make sure it's remembered. And with people trying to shut down sites like the Internet Archive, the people fighting against piracy could be the reason we lose that hard work forever.
And like they're stupid because they don't realize that people are just going to fight harder. You try and take down the Internet Archive, 10 more are going to pop up in its place. And they're going to be sketchier and worse. Like, it's not it, bro. They're probably profiting off of it. They're probably running 5 out of 10 of the other websites.
This whole video has been pretty difficult to make.
That was a cool trailer, or not a trailer, that was a cool commercial. It looked like a trailer for PlayStation, it kind of was. It was like a promotion. But that got me, makes me want to, you know, acquire some games unconventionally from Sony.
You have no idea how many times
And they're the ones who killed all those characters. They're not running any of those characters anymore.
Gone back and rewritten sections of it to make better points or try to remove unnecessary fluff. I had whole long segments about copyright law and exemptions to it. I talked more about the early history of the cracking scene, but I just kind of realized that none of that really helped what I was saying, and I want the message of this video to be pretty clear. Being against piracy is easy. It's illegal, it hurts profits, it's stealing. That's it, that's all you have to say. And you have the law, most companies, and many, many people on your side. It's a pretty safe and easy opinion to have, and I don't fault anyone for having it. Because defending piracy, for any reason, almost always lands you with a mountain of arguments. You have to fight back on a bunch of misconceptions that are, at best, inaccurate, and at worst, straight up propaganda. And you have to deal with people trying to paint this issue as some sort of good versus evil debate. Even though I think the real answer here is that it isn't that black and white. You know, of course I want game devs to get paid more, and I want the games I like to make more money. I think if you like games and you have the cash, then you should support them and buy them. Obviously. I shouldn't even have to say it, because I don't think being pro-piracy—
Yeah, and that's why I'm not going to be buying any of the AAA games anytime soon, because they're all garbage, and most of the people I've seen that are at the heads of these companies are all garbage too. So I'm not going to buy it. Too bad to all of the good people that work at these companies and people just trying to get by, because they're probably going to end up losing their jobs. But maybe if they're good, they'll get scooped up at other companies.
Has to oppose those ideals. But if I'm going to make some judgment on the morality of piracy, I want to make sure I'm talking about it truthfully. And the truth, as far as I see it, is this. Piracy is not theft. Copyright laws kinda suck. DRM sucks more, and I can get a better experience in some games through piracy because of it. Pirating games is the only way to preserve many of them. It's the only way some people can play most of them. And while it doesn't conclusively hurt profits, fighting against it has certainly hurt consumers. In fact, even if piracy didn't exist, game devs probably wouldn't get treated any better, and companies would just find another scapegoat to blame their problems on. But because it does, and it's not going anywhere, people around the world have gotten to enjoy amazing games. I'm sorry, but I just don't think piracy is that bad.
Well, was it a good video or was it a good video? Oh no, my mouse died. I like that a lot. I like this guy a lot. I like his attitude. And he deserves a subscribe. Gave him a preemptive like. Mr. Lextorious. Good job. Pretty much said exactly the same way that I feel, and I'm sure most people that are into this space feel too. And if it's easy to get a game and I really enjoy the developers, of course I'm gonna pay full price for everything. I'm gonna get it all. Like Borderlands 1 and 2, I bought everything. Multiple times for those games. Easily piratable. But I wanted them on my account so I could have them forever to keep downloading them without having to go and get them. Go and acquire them and figure out how to get them to work, you know. The unfortunate MapleStory situation. I've almost played MapleStory a few times. I don't know why I'm not subscribed to Josh Strife. Oh, I am, just not to this channel.
I saw the message in the chat about MapleStory. What happened with that? It was very simple. So whenever a company contact me and ask me to make a sponsored video, I explain to them that making a sponsored video is a risk for me because audience trust is a currency. You build it up by doing things that show you are trustable, and you spend it if you need to do things that are risky or people won't like. Everyone supports the underdog up until the underdog becomes successful. Then most people don't continue to support you. I had a lot of people, and still have a lot of people, that support me making the videos that I enjoy. But once I found the level of success, they no longer supported that. So when companies contact me and say, hey, make a sponsored video, I have to weigh up the benefit that I would gain from the video against the amount of audience trust I would lose from making the video. And the truth is, I don't want to lose any audience trust from making any videos, because to me, if I say something and people immediately turn around and go, I don't believe you, then what's the point of me making videos at all? At that point, I'm just making it to generate income.
I feel the same way, man. Like, I'll take the sponsorship, but I'm not gonna lie for you. I'm gonna let them know how it is, you know? Or I'm gonna, you know, I am gonna lie to you, but I'm gonna meme at the same time, so you know that I'm lying. Not a good idea if you're a gambling company or a game like this, also a gambling company in my opinion, to get a hold of me, because I'm gonna shit on you and I'm gonna take your money.
Instead of making it because I believe I have something relevant or important or funny to say. So when I was contacted by a company who represented Nexon to me, it wasn't Nexon, you never deal directly with the companies. That's a lie. You very rarely deal directly with the companies. I have only dealt with a couple of companies directly. Jagex for RuneScape, they're lovely to work with. ArenaNet for Guild Wars 2, they were great to work with. And Albion Online, they were good to work with as well. And NordVPN and GamerSubs, they were also cool to work with. GamerSubs, I still work with because I like the product. But when I was contacted by a company representing Nexon who asked me to make a review of MapleStory, I said, the only way this is going to work is if I put it in the worst MMO ever series and you effectively sponsor your own episode. Which is what Albion Online did. And I had genuinely made the episode before Albion came to me with the sponsorship. So I said, hey, I'm just going to effectively take your money, change nothing, and say you sponsored it. And they went, okay, do that. Which was fine. But The company representing MapleStory and Nexon turned around and said, no, we don't want you to do that. We want you to make a video that's positive and reviewing it and basically saying, should you play MapleStory? And I said, well, I don't really have a series that would fit into. I have the worst MMO ever series, and I have a couple of series of 100 hour ever, but I don't feel that that video is representative of my content. And they turned around and they went, okay, fine. Put it in the worst MMO ever thing, but you have to send us a review copy of the video. So I...
Yeah, you can review my video. Yeah, get fucked.
I made the video. I thought it was fair. I thought it was funny. And I sent it to them to review. And I got a response. And they said, hey, Josh, the way you've played the game is not the way we would anticipate a new player to play the game. Could you please re-edit your video to make it look like you did something first that you actually did second, which would have made your experience smoother? And I responded to them saying, I don't know if you know this, but I actually read every single line of a contract that I get sent. I am fastidious with contracts. And one of the clauses in your contract is that neither of us in this exchange would do something that affects the integrity of the other. It's actually a clause in a contract. I literally pointed out to them with the line and spacing. And I'm saying, what you're asking me to do right now is alter my review to present an unreal version of events, which would be damaging to my integrity, because I am no longer...
Well, don't play MapleStory. I already wasn't gonna. But I've heard bad things about them. But apparently they're willing to manipulate reviews. And I know some reviews have been manipulated recently. Dragon Age Veilguard. And I'm not into that.
Showing the audience the experience that I had. I'm showing them the experience that you hoped I would have. Now, the truth is that I actually said a hell of a lot of good stuff about MapleStory. The music in that game is incredible. It's really good. I played the Cain storyline, which is like this really edgy edgelord. And the storyline is, and it's freaking brilliant, genuinely. You are this low-level assassin working for a kind of shady government organization, and what they do is, in the storyline, you have your memories taken away from you and held, and only when you have paid off your debts to the government do you get your memories back. And the whole interesting plot line was, once you've paid off your debt, what's to stop them just wiping your memory of knowing that you've done that and demanding that you work for them more? And the whole opening plot was you breaking into a government facility and discovering that there's been this memory.
Daggerfall looking good, man. I think I might give Daggerfall a shot. I might start streaming that game. I'll have to get it. I think I did get it up and running. I just literally haven't played it. I went to the character creator and then stopped there because I got intimidated.
Memory theft. And you've been working for them for years and years and years and years and years, having paid off your debt multiple times, and they keep lying to you. It's people saying, what game is this? It is the opening of the Cain story in MapleStory. Anyway, I really liked it. And then you leave the opening and you go into the general game of MapleStory, and it got a bit more overwhelming to me. The cash shop was a bit egregious. The music keeps being good. The opening sections are a bit more difficult than they need to be. It was fun. It was good. It was a sci-fi story. But Cain is not meant to be the character you start as. It's meant to be a more high-level character. Now, there's nothing to stop a new player choosing Cain. I was a new player. I chose Cain. It was difficult. I struggled, but I loved it. And that's when I said, hey, the Cain's tutorial does not cover a lot of the basics that a player is expected to know. And their argument was, Cain will not be the first character someone chooses. And my argument was, I was the new player, I chose Cain. This can happen, this is going to happen. If anything, take my feedback and use it to improve the game. But they went back and forth, and eventually they said, look, Josh, if you do not re-edit your video to make it look like something different, we will not pay you. And I responded, that's absolutely fine. I will not re-edit the video. I'm sorry we couldn't make this work. I'll move on.
Big mistake. Big mistake on their part. Because they could have had this whole big audience from this guy playing this really cool looking game that needed some work, and he had some valid criticism and advice, and they said, fuck you. No.
Then I contacted, because I was proud of the video I'd made. Then I contacted the people that I was working with. Now, you have to remember that agencies take a cut of the money that they bring in. So a company pays an agency some money, the agency pay the content creator, but the agency keep a small amount of cash. If that transaction never happens, the agency have nothing to keep. So I had no direct contact with Nexon, but what I did was I actually contacted... Let me turn this background music down. There we go. I actually contacted the agency. Now, the agency have nothing to gain from me releasing the video without being paid, because then Nexon isn't paying them. They're getting nothing. But I contacted the agency and I said, look, I need you to ask your legal team something. What would happen if I just released this video anyway? Because I was proud of it. I know it's going to be an advert for MapleStory regardless, but because, you know, people see my video, go and play the game. What would happen if I just released it? And they responded saying, hey, the content that you have created in the process of making this video was created for us as part of our agreement. If you release it now, that is against contract. And I checked, and the contract did say that media paid for would be not, it's a general contract, it's not owned by them, but I can't release it and then take it down. That's actually a general way to do it. But they basically said, no, you can't release this video. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't want to get into a legal battle with them, so I just didn't. So the reason that we don't have a MapleStory video is the agency, and I think they were acting on advice from Nexon, were not happy that my video presented their game in a way that they felt was untrue, that ironically was 100% true, and so I wasn't allowed to then release it. If I make a video on MapleStory, it will be in the future, but I will have to remake the video, which is a shame because I think it was actually a very praise-heavy video. Josh, if they don't pay you, there's no consideration as there's no contract. You can do whatever you want. Ah, I understand that. They never paid. I signed the contract. I didn't deliver the goods. They never paid. However, the contract does still say that any media made for them is made for them. Now, the point is, if I release the video, they still get advertising. Even if I am 100% in the right, the law does not favor who is right. The law favors who is wealthiest and who has the time and the resources to engage in a long, drawn-out legal battle. I don't fancy going up against Nexon. They're a pretty big company. They're a bit bigger than me.
I'd vilify them, not work with them again in the future, and be like, nope, garbage company, garbage people to work with, not doing it.
I think that Nexon would probably be able to pull me into an extremely long legal battle and drain me of resources before I was even be able to touch their lawyers.
Yeah, and I also think that would kill MapleStory, because that's what this was all about, and they would definitely have to drop it, because this would be a huge scandal. You should have done it. You should have went through with it.
So, just didn't bother. It's not worth it. Not worth it at all. When you get involved in legal battles, only lawyers win. So that's why MapleStory doesn't have a video, because they were afraid of me putting out a video on my own style. And that was actually part of the... In fact, this is interesting. That one experience was a catalyst for me changing how I worked with companies. When a company approaches me now and asks for a sponsored video, I say to them, this is going to go in the contract. I will produce a video in my style to the best of my ability, and I will be as integral as I possibly can. I will be honest, I will be genuine, I'll be fair. If you are not happy with the video because you believe it portrays your game in a negative light, you still pay me. If you believe I am lying in the video, you don't pay me. Whether it goes out or not. If you believe it is an honest video, we still get paid. Now, there have only been a couple of companies that have accepted that. Jagex was one of them. Jagex watch my stuff. They know that I'm going to be fair, and they went, okay, do this. If we use the video, great. If we don't use the video, we still pay you. And they used the video. That was my review of the Jagex RuneScape 3 mobile client, which actually pointed out a couple of flaws with the client, which they fixed very fast. So decent Jagex. ArenaNet with Guild Wars 2. What it is, genuinely, it's companies that are confident with their product. Good Old Games. I work very closely with Good Old Games, and I work very closely with GamerSupps. Both those companies are extremely confident in their product, without a doubt. So GOG and GamerSupps. They are the people that I like working with. I've got direct contact with them on Discord.
Also, GOG. I have a lot of GOG games. I love GOG. If you want to sponsor me, you know, I'd take a couple of free games just for a sponsorship.
We chat with them. I can talk with them whenever I want. They're genuinely good people. I like that. So GamerSupps and Good Old Games, that's a good combination. In fact, I'll be working with Good Old Games on a game coming out soon.
I'll be some
GamerSupps the entire time while I'm doing it.
Love me some Good Old Games. Good Old Games, one of my favorite companies for just DRM free, and they don't really care about piracy because they're better service than piracy. So if you find Good Old Games, you're gonna stick with Good Old Games because, like, you find some Good Old Games for $1 sometimes, and it's games that I really love, like Free Space 2. I've brought it up a few times. I'm still playing that game. It's been a couple weeks. I've just been playing it off and on. Great game. Not MapleStory. Ain't gonna play that game because they've soured me just from this one experience with this one guy that I've seen like 4 videos from. And that's where I'm gonna leave today's stream off. If you like what I do here, leave a like. Also, I've got a PayPal down there in the description. And you know what? I've also got that thanks button. Thanks button is probably the best thing. I've got a new show coming out in about a month called Bebop Melvin. I think that's the first time that I dropped that name. Where I will be doing movie reviews of old movies. Usually, mostly, in quotes, bad movies that were complete failures back in the day that I ended up loving as a kid and still love as an adult. Anyway, that's it.